Hello, everybody. How are you doing? So I'm going to apologise again, like I did in my video this morning. If nobody saw it, the audio is going to be pretty shitty on this live stream because I've got no proper streaming microphone. It's all in storage at the minute. It sounds a bit echoey in here because we've got no flooring down yet. There's no carpet in the house yet, so it's going to be very echoey for a live stream. We have got internet now. The broadband is working, hence the live stream. Back up. We're ready to go. Hey Steve, how you doing? How you doing, mate? We'll see if a few more people come in. People haven't been getting the notifications for live stream. I'm back on the laptop, so I'm not on the phone, obviously, for obvious reasons, because it was nicked on Monday. But I'm back on the laptop, so at least I can see comments pretty good. So how is everybody? How's everybody doing in the chat? Give a thumbs up if you're okay and you're feeling fine. Well, yeah, I'll wait for a few more people to come into the live stream and I'll start talking. Sometimes it takes a bit for the notification to get around people and realise the live stream started. So I'm going to wait and see if people come in because I don't want to keep repeating myself. Because going forward, there's going to be changes regarding when I go out, do my out and about things. They're not Nazis, Jack. They're not Nazis. I'll stand to this comment. They're not Nazis. They are Trotsky communists because that's what Keir Starmer is. He's a Trotsky communist. Some of them are Marxist, but he's a Trotsky. Trotsky communists are probably the worst type of communists you can get. They're the most extreme communists, worse than Marxists. That's what they are. But yeah, you're kind of right by saying that they're Nazis because National Socialism, communism, it's like two branches of the same ideology that split off. Hitler had his idea about how to do socialism, and the communists had their idea how they were going to do socialism and communism. There's not much difference, really, in the ideologies. Both use authoritarianism to create equality. The state controls everybody. But yeah. Right. So I just found out today. I didn't know when I made that video this morning. I didn't realize that my live stream had been taken down from Monday. I didn't look at it because I was too busy. This was before the engineer came out and fixed the broadband. So as soon as I got online, I checked the account, and it wasn't until later on I actually saw it had been taken down. It was taken down apparently through a third-party privacy violation, whatever that means. So it means, does that mean that somebody flagged my video on behalf of somebody else because of a privacy issue? I don't understand because YouTube didn't explain themselves. I didn't get any email telling me that there'd been a privacy breach or anything like that. I had a look through my emails today when I got back online. There was no email. I looked in the junk. There was no email or anything like that. Because usually you get a certain amount of grace to actually go into your video and either blur out the people's faces or edit that section out where they appear. I wasn't given any of that. Apparently they just took the video down without any type of appeal or anything like that. I couldn't have appealed anyway because I wasn't online, but I didn't get anything. Yeah. Just looking at comments, just looking at the chat. Yeah, Jack's saying bring back the BNP. That's a bad idea. No, don't bring that. Don't bring back the BNP. We don't need the BNP. We've got our own right-wing party, and that's UKIP. UKIP's good the way it is. UKIP should rebrand itself. Really, it should get rid of, like I've said this before, it should get rid of all the influence that Nigel Farage had over the party. Get rid of that £sign flag. Get rid of the colour scheme. and come back and call it something else. But yeah. Right, so for all of you that don't know, I've been off YouTube for just 4 days. My phone was stolen on Monday at the pro-Palestine, pro-communist gala, because that's what it was. Anybody who saw the live stream, it wasn't anything about the working class at all. Yeah, there was a few banners at the front regarding miners and stuff like that. They had a brass band, but that was about it. That the whole march was made up of lefty nut jobs and that kind of thing. So yeah, the live stream was taken down by persons unknown. I'm guessing it was somebody from the march marching around who didn't like the photo taken at a public event or being filmed at a public event in the street, which is weird to me that anybody could put in a claim of privacy at a public event, at a march, at a protest. It just doesn't make any sense. But then again, we're not dealing with normal people, are we? We're dealing with people that are just lunatics and are completely thin-skinned. What makes me laugh as well, these people, that they want a revolution and that they want to fight in a revolution to bring about communism. And that would mean a violent revolution, wouldn't it? And yet they can't stand to be photographed in public. They're hardly a threat, are they? Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were, Bluebell. Half of them were in the 60s. Yeah, it's the loony hippie left trying to get some final virtue signaling in before they finally pop the clogs and they disappear from the earth. That's what it is. And the usual people were there. We had the lefty teachers, the teachers union were there, and all that kind of nonsense. And God, that's what we've got teaching our kids. What's wrong with the BNP? Well, unfortunately, Jack, half of them seem to worship an Austrian painter, if you know what I mean. A third partner claim is normally when your video someone directly in a discussion, but even that shouldn't work. Exactly. You know, the only people that I featured in my video were the people in the march. I didn't film anybody that was on the side or anything like that. And that's covered by being in public anyway. You know, you can point your camera at anybody in public and you can accidentally catch them in the camera frame, and that shouldn't mean anything. Anybody that I talked to was there in the march, and if you're in a march, well, that's a public event, and you shouldn't be able to claim privacy at a public event where you're in a march. That's just ridiculous to me. And anybody that came up to the side and started talking to me, that was their choice. I didn't force them to come up to me and talk to me. They did that of their own volition. Look at that cosplaying Hamas supporting guy who decided to speed up to me on his bike and say, "You can't film me in public, you can't film me in public." And it's like, yes, I can, mate. This is England. This is Britain. I'm kind of thinking that could be the guy that actually complained because he didn't like being filmed. But there you go. They're idiots. Yeah, I went and stood with the Jewish guy because they were all like trying to crowd around him. There was one lady behind him making fun of him, and the only reason he was there was to support the hostages and want the hostages back that have been taken by Hamas, and they were mocking that guy. I don't like bullies or anything like that, and I thought they were absolutely disgusting. You know, because he wasn't shouting at me. He wasn't like me, shouting at the communists. He was just stood there, holding up his placard, completely peaceful, not saying anything to them, and they were mocking him. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that one bit. You know, and these people, they're the ones that claim to be, you know, anti-fascist. Well, That's kind of what the fascists did. They didn't like the Jews, but we all know that. We all know the commies don't like the Jews, don't we? They don't like the Jews at all. At all. So they're no different to the fascists at all. It's only really tiny bits of ideology that separate the communists from the fascists. Anyway, I mean, they like to go on and on about how different they are from the fascist communists, and it's like, well, they weren't arguing over morality. They were arguing in 1930s Germany. The communists and the fascists were arguing over superiority, whose ideology was going to control Germany. They weren't arguing over morality or anything like that. They weren't saying, "Oh, we must protect the Jews." No, if the communists had got into power, they would have done exactly the same thing to the Jewish people that the Nazis did. Here we go. The Russian Communist Revolution was led by the Jews. Maybe so. Then it's just a case of turkeys voting for Christmas, isn't it? I didn't even get to see a video before it went down. I thought it might have been removed over being subject to the crime thing. No. Apparently, it was an individual who didn't like to be filmed at a public event. And like I said, the only people that I filmed directly were the people who were taking photographs of me and that were filming me, which was at the beginning of the march. We had those group of Muslim women who went in my live stream, started trolling my live stream. They were saying things back to me. They were filming me, so I just filmed them back. And obviously, you can't do that because these people don't like getting back what we gave to them, do they? Like I said, the only people I filmed were the people that came up to me and were talking to me. That was it. And the people that were in the march. But we've had this before, and I think this is what I'm going to have to do in future. I think to avoid them using this tactic in the future, any live events that I do, I'm going to have to upload them to Rumble and then link them from my YouTube channel to Rumble so people can go and watch it there. I think that's what I'm going to have to do because Rumble won't take videos down. They don't take videos down like that. They leave them up. That's what I was doing before. So that's what I'm going to have to do in the future, I think. Definitely going to have to get two phones, one for live streaming and one for just, everyday personal use. I'm going to take that on board. People suggested getting an oldish phone to stream from. I think that's a good idea. So if it gets nicked, it's no great loss. And I could probably insure that phone anyway. So if it does get nicked, I can just replace it. And I can do that easily anyway. So their tactics going forward. Also, like I said in the video today, I'm going to have like a full-on body camera, security camera, like the big bulky ones that I used to have when I used to do security, that just record for 8 hours. So I can go to an event and just click it on, and it will record all the time that I'm there. So if anybody in the future does try to do anything like this, I'll get them on camera, and I'll get anybody else on camera as well, whether they like it or not. That's the tactics going forward. I'm getting a bit of a team together as well. There are a few people that DM me on Twitter saying that next time I go to a live event, they want to come down. There's some people from Sheffield, there's some people from around Chesterfield that were actually at the event and didn't know that I was there. And they said if they'd known I was there, they would have come and joined me. So yeah, there's going to be more of us next time, definitely. That doesn't skip more, sorry mate, but the Bolshevik Jews were hardly Jews. Rumour is that Trotsky, Lev, Bolshevik was from the pig farming family. There you go. After World War II, Operation Neil, had all the Russians returned to Russia who did not want to. Want to go get the Jews. Had free movement. Okay. Okay. This I'm not going to make this about Jews or anything like that. The only reason I stood with that gentleman at the march is because I don't like bullies. He had every right to be there as much as the communists did. I know there are some people that subscribe to me that don't particularly like the Jews and that kind of stuff. I don't, we can agree to disagree on that sort of thing. I'm not going to make it about that. I'm not interested in that. My channel is about getting this country back and standing up to the Marxists and the Trotskyists and the communists that are trying to destroy this country. That's what my channel is about. And, it's about taking a new direction. I'm still going to be talking about the Reform Party because they're a big part of it too. They're an absolute shit show. And, after Nigel Farage's comments on GB News on the VE Day celebrations were just absolutely atrocious. And that's who they've got as a leader of the Reform Party. Absolutely disgusting. So getting back to the what was going on, it was going well. The live stream was going well. I know it was shit. I look back at it and it was blocky, it was bodgy, but I was getting footage of them, what they were saying and stuff like that. It wasn't even that great. I mean, the stream itself was pixelated, so how they can claim privacy, I don't know. But I don't think I'd live stream again from one of these events. I think I've been watching Charlie Veach, and he used to live stream a lot out doing this thing, and he stopped doing it because the quality is so bad. People have told me about an app I could use called Prism for streaming when you're out and about, so I might try that next time and see how that goes. But I'm definitely going to be having a GoPro running at these events just to record it as a video as well as live streaming. So if this happens again, I haven't just got the live stream that's been taken down. I've got raw footage that I can upload somewhere else. Lessons were learned. Definitely lessons were learned from the Gala March. If I'm going to start and do this properly, then I've got to develop tactics. I've got to develop methods about how I'm going to do it. So it was a learning curve, and it won't happen again. It won't. I'm determined about that. CP reports uses Prism, but I certainly don't. It doesn't work well, but that could be London. Yeah, but I think sometimes the police do use they use the anti-Wi-Fi. They use live streaming dampeners to stop people live streaming. They did it during. Remember when there were the protests down in London for the lockdowns, and a lot of the live streams that were going on were very, very were buffering all the time. Apparently, it's because the police were using interference to stop the live streams. So I heard anyway. So look. So what's this? What Jack's saying? Vindicated. Do you think President Trump and Vice President Vance should step in and add the UK as an additional state? That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. What I think they should do is offer asylum to British people for being persecuted for their religious and political beliefs, because that's what's happening in this country right now. People are being persecuted. Look at Peter Lynch. All he did was shout at the police, didn't even do anything to them. And then what happened to him? Prison. Poor bloke couldn't hack it in prison, committed suicide. Allegedly. That is true. I knew someone who helped write the code. Yeah. It's obvious because there were like dead zones. People would step out and the live stream would be okay. Then they'd go into where the actual protests were being held and there'd be just total blackout on live streams. It was obvious they were using. We did something similar in Iraq to try and interrupt certain technologies that the insurgents were using. we used like really strong RF signals to interrupt their comms and that kind of thing. Who was the first Labour Tory presence in your lifetime? Yeah. All right, Peter Lynch, exactly. Poor bloke. He didn't deserve that. Starmer's got blood in his hands for that one, definitely. And for what's his name now? God, Wayne. What Wayne? His first name's Wayne. I've got to admit, he was writing some spicy stuff on Twitter, but he should have been sent to prison for it. You know, he should probably just got a slap on the wrist. He was borderline inciting violence with some of his tweets, but it wasn't that. It wasn't as bad as some of the stuff that was out there on the other side. God, what's his name? Wayne Rourke, isn't it? Wayne Rourke. That's it. Yeah, he should not. No, none of them should be in prison. There should be nobody in prison for writing stuff on social media. You know, it's free speech at the end of the day, isn't it? Unless you're directly inciting violence and calling for the deaths of individuals or groups of people, then you shouldn't be in prison. The UK have Air Force One, like the US has. Yeah, most states people have their own personal aircraft or helicopter or whatever, don't they? Stormer 2 tier misinformation. Yeah, and apparently there was a report done into what caused the riots last summer. And as we all know, Keir Starmer went on TV and he blamed the far right. And this report has come out and said that the far right had nothing to do with the riots in the summer last year. So he was flat out lying. He was spreading misinformation himself about what actually happened that caused those riots. It was nothing to do with the far right. It was the fact that people just absolutely angry at the fact that this was being swept under the carpet. The murder of 3 young children. And let's not forget, it wasn't just the murder of 3 young girls. It was also how many were injured? Was it 10 girls in all that were injured and 3 of them died? People were quite rightly angry about that. Anybody would be angry about that. And the fact that Keir Starmer was trying to sweep it under the carpet, he just poured fuel on the flames of people already being angry. A statesman would have come down and calmed the population down and said, look, we're going to investigate this. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And the people and the person that's done this is going to face the full force of the law. What happened? The state, the news media were actually protecting the perpetrator rather than, having some kind of sympathy towards his victims. They spent the time trying to hide his identity. Look at the pictures that came out about what was Axel, Rubik's Cube. You know, he was portrayed as a sweet, innocent little boy. Yet when his proper photo came out, he looked like an absolute psychotic version of Sideshow Bob out of The Simpsons, didn't he? His hair was up. He looked like a complete and utter maniac, and that's what they were trying. That's what they were trying to stop being portrayed. That he looked like a maniac, because they're always trying to protect a certain demographic within society, aren't they? They didn't want it coming out that he was actually going to the mosque in the prison, that he was praying to Islam. They didn't reveal at the time that he had training manuals. Was it for Al Qaeda? He was making rice in his basement. This isn't some cutesy little schoolboy that once, did an advert for Doctor Who on BBC. This guy was an absolute maniac. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. It was Keir Starmer's fault. Absolutely, 100%. Exactly, but they had to race swap him, didn't they, Steve? They had to race swap him to a 13-year-old white boy because they've got to protect that demographic in society. Unbelievable. And you know, it's been said already, but Keir Starmer, he's not going to stand up in the House of Parliament and say, you know what, we really need to show that Channel 4 documentary about the grooming gangs in schools as well. He won't stand up in the Parliament and say that needs to happen, but he will stand up and push a fictional story, a dramatisation, as fact. He even called it a documentary, didn't he? To be watched in our schools because it fits his narrative. Messages being blocked. I'm seeing your messages now. There's no messages being blocked. As you can see, I've got moderators, but they'll only kick in if people start spamming in the chat. So no comments being blocked. I'm not blocking any comments. So if it is, it's YouTube. I will warn you, don't drop any links in the chat because YouTube will remove them. I was in before I got kicked out of my house. I was in a live stream and I got kicked out for dropping a link by YouTube. They don't like links for some reason. Yeah, YouTube doesn't like certain phrases, but it doesn't like links. I've had quite a few people come to my videos and say, no, that my links have disappeared or my comments disappeared. YouTube is using its algorithm now to remove comments that mention certain things in comments. So that's not me doing it. That, you know, I've told people before, you've got to watch what you put in the comments. If you use profanity or if you use certain words referring to certain things, I think we all know what we're talking about, they will remove the comment. Adolescence is a documentary released the sausages. He's not the brightest android. No, he's not. he's a very, very dumb meat puppet, isn't he, Keir Starmer? You know, there's absolutely no point. You know, I could do video after video talking about the Labour Party and Keir Starmer and his clown car posse of a cabinet, but there's really no point because they're just low-hanging fruit. Absolutely low-hanging fruit at this point. There's nothing that I could say about them that people haven't already said. Yeah, unfortunately, YouTube is censorship central. It really is. If you're to the right of Lenin, then you're going to get censored on YouTube. Yeah, Steve, he won't time anybody out, and if he does, he always tells me because they've posted something they shouldn't have. But he hasn't done that at any point during this live stream. The main thing Steve blocks is those weird Arabic links that seem to appear on my videos from time to time. Never click on those. If you ever see a link or a comment and it's got a link in Arabic or anything like that, don't click on it in the comments. It's a scam. It'll either release a nasty virus onto your computer or they'll hack your computer with it. Don't touch it. Just report it. There's like 3 little dots on the comment in the right hand top corner. Click on those, go down through the menu, and in the menu there'll be a list, and just report it as spam, and it'll send it to a separate thing on the back end of my channel. I can review it and I'll just delete it and it'll get removed. Don't click on them. Yeah, I agree. I know this might be controversial, but I think the royal family have had their day. I think if anything happens to Prince Charles, has he got cancer? I think he's got cancer, hasn't he? and apparently he doesn't have long. So if anything happens to Prince Charles, I think we should knock it on the head and say, yeah, that's it. We don't need the monarchy anymore. Let's face it, it's going to be hard to top, Queen Elizabeth, isn't it? She was the last one, the last great monarch of this country. Prince Charles is just an absolute traitorous, sellout, globalist scumbag. And so is his son. His son is as well. His son's a globalist. Harry is just an absolute clusterfuck of fail with that Meghan Markle. You know what? Dan Mutton just goes on and on about Meghan Markle. I just don't want to know. I don't care about the royal family at all. I don't. They're just pointless, in my opinion. You can't even mention platforms that are good as the bots immediately delete. Yeah. Rumble's okay. Rumble's okay. If you want to go to Rumble, I'm on Rumble. It's in the banner going round. Check out that. On Rumble, I'm Vindicator Vengeance. Twitter, X, I'm Dark Knight DA. Go check me out on Twitter. Because these are the places that I will be if this channel ever gets taken down. They are traitors. You're right, Mark. They're absolute traitors. Charles is a traitor. Sold out his country. Sold out his people. Well, we're not his people, are we? The only good thing Dan Mutton is he keeps it separate from the main feed. But I don't go to the Royal Substack. No, I don't either. I like the fact that he separates his news. That's good. Because I just choose and pick the videos that I want to watch. I don't watch when that idiot. Oh God, what's her name now? There's so many idiots. I just keep losing track of the names. She was all right when she was interviewing Tommy Robinson, but now she's become an absolute Farage fangirl about things. God, what's her name? She's on. Is it Talk TV? She's got blonde hair. She's the one that said. She's the one that said she would die for Farage if necessary. It was an absolute, That's it, Alex Phillips. Thanks, Steve. What are your demands, V? To vote Reform again? No, I'll never vote Reform again. Not while Nigel Farage is in the leadership role. Not while Zaya Yousaf, Nigel Farage, and not while the party isn't democratised. I will vote for them. Yeah, that's the one, Alex. That's it. Yeah, Steve, Alex Phillips, isn't it? I can't stand her. I don't like Richard Tice's bit on the side. What's her name? Ogleshot, whatever her name is. Oh God, she's just like smarm, isn't she? Just pure and utter smarm. I just don't like her. I can't listen to her. Yeah, reform the democratisation. The subscribers need to be able to vote out the leadership. Until that happens, it's not a true party. It's just a protest party with Nigel Farage just using it for his own ego, to push it, to give himself an ego boost, and that's it. They're a protest party. I don't care what the Farages say. They're a protest party. Yeah, they are. Alex, June Slater. June Slater, she's got it bad, hasn't she? She's got it bad for Farage. She's well and truly fallen for him, hook, line, and sinker. And Alex Phillips, I don't know what people see in him, but they're gonna, this is what narcissists do, don't they? They just, they draw people in. Isabel Oakleshot, yeah, that's it, as I call her. Oak, that, yeah. Vicky, her father was an MP, but can find no trace of him on the net. Right, okay. Bird brain bimbo is well, yeah, of course, well, yeah. Well, you've got to have a certain kind of stupid to be, the partner of Richard Tice, aren't you? Because Jesus Christ, and I'm sorry if I'm blaspheming, I'm sorry, people. People don't like me when I do that. But oh boy, is Richard Tice, he's just dull, isn't he? Absolutely dull. He's, I used to call him a game show host with no charisma, because that's what he is. And that's the only reason Nigel Farage keeps him around, because he knows that Richard Tice is no threat to him. He knows he's got no chance of leadership or overtaking him in popularity, because he's not popular. People don't like Richard Tice, especially after his comments of calling us that lot. Definitely not. He's, oh God. It's proof, isn't it, that you don't need intelligence to be an MP, Richard Tice. And look at what Reform just keep banging on about as well. They keep going on and on about things that just don't mean anything to us, like net zero. And yeah, fair enough, get rid of net zero with lower bills, but is that really a priority? Is that really the main priority for us at the minute? It's not, is it? It's not a priority at all. Net zero and raising the tax bracket. Yeah, that's all well and good, but we're talking, step 1000 of saving the country. Number one for saving the country is deporting all the illegal immigrants already here, stopping the small boats, and making our borders strong. I don't give a shit about net zero or anything like that. It doesn't mean anything to me. Nigel Farage is as well. Nigel Farage is an absolute class snob. He is. He don't like the working class. Apparently, I was watching Sargon of Akkad's video, and he was talking about Gerard Batten and the fact that Nigel Farage referred to Gerard Batten as the help, even though Gerard Batten at the time was leader of UKIP, and Nigel Farage, I think, was he president or something like that? He called Gerard Batten the help. And it was all because the different classes, between Nigel Farage and Gerard Batten. He's an absolute old-fashioned Tory snob, class snob. He is. All right, so let's look at this, right? Ryan West, let's riot. So what's your thinking behind that? What do you think will happen if everybody goes out and riots? What do you think will happen? Let's riot, we are the far. I'm not the far right. You might be the far right. I'm not the far right. And to be honest with you, if you go out and riot in the street, you're going to get arrested. You're going to get thrown in prison, aren't you? Look what happened last summer. People getting their doors kicked in because they went out and did stupid things. Yeah, their anger might have been justified, but what they did wasn't. So if you want to go out and riot, you're going to get arrested. Ryan West, did you see the guy in Rochdale with his HK? Yeah, I've never seen Ryan in the chat before. So he's either one of the far left at the rally trying to incite something, or he's just a troll, isn't he? Not a good idea to riot, Ryan. Yeah? Just saying that for the record. Right, what else? What else has been going off while I've been offline then? Because I'm out of the loop on certain things. I've been looking at some news articles about certain things. It looks like, oh yeah, we can talk about that. So apparently, I was reading an article that would suggest the police are actually training because they're scared a civil war might break out. So even the police are taking it seriously now, and you can bet your bottom dollar that if the police are training for civil war, it's because the government are scared. They know we're close of something kicking off. I think it would, to be honest with you, I think it would only take another incident like what happened in Southport last summer, and I think all bets would be off in this country. I really do. I also, Steve will probably know about this. Apparently, the boss of the Royal Navy quit, and I'm hearing on the grapevine from lots of people, from lots of my military friends and stuff like that, that the army and the military are so woke now. I think I mentioned this in live streams before. One of my friends actually quit the army, quit last year. They put up in his barracks this little warning sign on their door. Warning signs for people being radicalized by the far right. And there were actually pictures. And apparently, one of the things that made you radicalized was displaying the St. George's Cross. The St. George's Cross being the national flag of this country, England. Unbelievable. Not to mention that the St. George's Cross is a part of the Union flag, which most military personnel have on their uniforms. Showing patriotism, apparently, was another one. Showing patriotism, being overly patriotic, was another sign that you were being radicalized into the far right in the military. God, is it any wonder that our military is falling apart, that the boss of the Navy has quit? And then we had all this controversy over, was it the Royal Marine Commandos, where that Royal Marine Commando was detained under the Terrorism Act because he questioned diversity, equity, and inclusion policy in the Royal Marines. And it's like, are we that far gone? I don't think people realise how far gone this country is, but absolutely. The news media, they smooth over it. It's like the news media in North Korea, where they pretend everything's okay all the time. No, everything's okay. Nobody's starving to death. Nobody's dying. Nobody's being killed. Nobody's being stabbed on a daily basis in our towns and cities. Everything's okay. It's like that, but really, underneath it all, the country is an absolute dumpster fire. And people just don't realise, do they? I only know a very senior Navy guy going ape and saying that his generations of sailors, Navy officers, will be gutted by the service currently. But I'm not ex-Navy. I was watching, before we moved into the house, we're in the, what do they call it, emergency accommodation. I was watching this really woke series. I think it was on Channel 4. It was called, it was a documentary about serving on the new Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier. It was like a reality TV thing. And they were having Black History Month on it. And it was like, for fuck's sake, the whole thing about the military is that when you join the military, all boundaries are put down. Everybody's treated the same anyway. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, pink, green, or whatever. They don't care. They really don't care. They're not bothered. All they care about is breaking you down and then building you back up to be, military, a soldier. That's all they care about. And yet, oh God, the Navy's going to this woke ideology bullshit. I used to work with a guy. We worked at a very prominent, what was it, mall. And he was ex-military. He was actually an instructor. And apparently they brought a new system in where they were doing their exercises and, they had to pass their tests and stuff. And apparently they brought this new system, this new card system in. It was like football. It was like, green, yellow, and red. And if they had enough, they held up a red card to say, "I'm done. I need to go home. I need to go out and relax a bit." And he said it was just bloody ridiculous. Instead of being able to push these people to the absolute limits, like you have to do if you're in the military, you have to be pushed to your absolute limits to see if you can hack it, because you will be pushed to your absolute limits when you're serving in the military. When I was out in Iraq, I wasn't in the military. When I was out in Iraq, I was doing private security for a private security firm. But if you don't have that mentality where you're willing to just keep going and push yourself, you're not going to survive. You're going to die. I don't want to go into too much detail because I can't, because I've still got NDAs that are active. But there were certain engagements, certain times we got contacted by the enemy where I didn't know if I was going to live or die, because there were some times we were just absolutely surrounded. And, there were times when I thought, shit, this is it. And you've got to be of the mentality, even though you know that shit, this could be it, is just to keep fighting. You've got to have that mentality. And if you have this system in the Navy where you are, oh, I'm feeling a bit tired, I'm going to put this red card up because I can't hack it anymore. That should be an instant, that should be right, yeah, you're done, you're out, you're no good. Bye. The military's not for you. You need to go. Because I don't know about you, but I want the person next to me to be as capable as I am. And that's what the military is all about. That's why our selection is so tough. It's to make sure that the person next to you is just as capable as you are, and that when the shit hits the fan, they've got your back. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. The thing, propellers don't work. I seem to be spare parts to keep them to measure. Apparently, half of the fleet is in mothballs because they simply can't man the ships because they don't have enough personnel. That's what I've been told. Half the fleet's mothballed. But we aren't. There was a time when people used to fear our Navy. They used to fear our Navy, they used to fear our Army, they used to fear our Air Force. And sadly, those days are way behind us. They are. With all the budget cuts, with all these diversity, equity and inclusion policies where we don't choose people based on their skills or merit anymore, we simply choose them because of characteristics they were born with. That's what's completely destroyed our armed forces. It's what's completely destroyed our police force. That's what's done it. What's it like fighting ISIS? Well, you've probably heard this before, and I've heard this from squaddies. It's 90% boredom, 10% sheer terror. And it's true. And it's not bullshit. When you go out there, it's not macho or anything like that. You're not, unless you're scared, people don't trust you. If you say you go out there and say, I'm not scared, they're worried, because that means that you're a liability. You've got to be scared, but you've got to be able to control that fear. It's that old saying, isn't it? Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being able to perform and do what's right in the face of fear. And that's what soldiers are. They have that fear. They do. Trust me. I've got to be careful what I say. But I've worked with ex tier 1 operators when I was out in Iraq, and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But that's what your training's for. You overcome that fear and you just carry on going, even though you know that this might be it. You've got to keep fighting. And fighting ISIS, they're not the backward sheep shaggers that they're made out to be. They're quite sophisticated. A lot of the leadership is actually Oxford and Cambridge educated. A lot of them are. Look at what's his name? Osama bin Laden. I think he was either Oxford or Cambridge educated. They're not stupid. Some of them are, have got PhDs. Some of them are, top tier electrical, engineers, which is why they make the IEDs and the suicide vests. Exactly, Steve. Aggression is a tool. You know, to a soldier, aggression is a tool. It's like a carpenter has a hammer or a saw. You know, 1 minute you're aggressive, you flip that switch, and then you're back to being calm. That's what they look for. They don't want somebody that's going to be a nutcase and go gung ho. You've got to be able to control it. You've got to be able to, manage it under pressure. Obviously, I've missed something. Why do you have NDAs? When you sign up for private security, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That means you don't talk about your activities whilst you're in Iraq. You don't talk about people, the names. You don't talk about places. You don't talk about operations you went on. You don't talk about anything. You don't talk about the people you protected or anything like that. And that's a lifetime NDA. Because as far as I know, and I know there are still people out there from the company I was working for in the places where I operated. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't say anything anyway, because I'd be putting them at risk. And people think it's silly, loose lips do sink ships. They really do. A cautionary tale I was told was that there was a lad out there. I can't confirm this. This is just hearsay, but this is what I heard. That there's a lad out there before I went out there, and he was on social media, certain social media site. He blabbed about certain things, and these people found out where he lived in England. And these insurgents, they're everywhere. They have terror cells everywhere. The government doesn't want you to know it, but there is. There are terror cells everywhere in this country, and they managed to get to his family. They got to his family, and they threatened him. And he was given the boot, because fortunately they found out before he compromised anything. And he was booted out. And I think he had to go into hiding. If you sign up for anything private, military, police, you have to NDAs and don't step out of line. Exactly. And the people I work for, you don't particularly want to mess. That's all I can say on that. Because the penalties were not only financial. I actually heard, and this is probably just spread to scare people into not talking, but I heard people had actually been disappeared because they talked. But to me, that just came across as, that's just them trying to, but I don't know. But I won't talk. And I wouldn't talk anyway. Because imagine, right, it's a similar thing if you're in the British Army, you sign the Official Secrets Act, that you're not going to talk about operations that you went on. And when you come out of the army, a lot of squaddies aren't going to talk about what they did, simply because the mates are still out there and they don't want to compromise them. They don't want the mates to die. I don't want anybody to die because of something that I've said. Good. Thank you. Media and wildlife. Good to see that. Yeah, thanks, mate. Just want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for liking and subscribing, by the way, my channel while I've been offline. I'm sorry I didn't answer everybody's comments. I'm trying to get around to that now. Answering everybody. I keep forgetting to mention stuff in my videos. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, it's the number one rule that, sorry, you don't talk, because you literally are putting people's life at risk if you talk. And these people, they are really good. They are really good intelligence gatherers as well. Every time we went out in Iraq, people were filming us. They were always filming us. They were filming our activities. They were taking photos of us and everything. We knew what they were doing. They were intelligence gatherers, but we couldn't engage them because we had to follow the same rules of engagement that NATO forces did out there. We were governed by NATO rules. Our company was. I'm not sure about other companies, but we had to follow NATO rules. The rules of engagement were that the enemy had to be holding a weapon for them to be engaged. If they could literally put a weapon down and you couldn't engage them because they put a weapon down. That was all after the whole BlackRock incident as well. Things got tough because BlackRock were another private security company out there that decided to kill a load of Iraqi civilians. So yeah, things got tough after that. A lot of people quit after that. This went home. So how's everybody been? How's everybody been? What have you been up to? Is there any other subjects you want me to talk about? Because I literally have no clue what's been going on because I've been offline for literally the broadband was supposed to come on last Friday in the house, so it's been more than a week because we moved into the house on Monday, and from that point on, we literally didn't have any internet in the house. The only thing I had was mobile data, and I was trying to check up certain sites, but it's not the same. So I've been literally out of the loop for about 2 weeks politically on things. I came back on today and I saw that Nigel Farage made an absolute tit of himself in that V-Day thing he did on GB News, where he was like calling out Tommy Robinson again. He was having a go at Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib again, making a proper tit of himself. Yeah, the guy's just a massive narcissist, isn't he? Egotistical narcissist. What was he said about Ben Habib? He was asked if he would allow Ben Habib back in the party. And none of these people want to go back to the Reform Party. They've already said that. It's just to stir up shit, GB News, when they say stuff like this. But apparently Nigel Farage, he said that he would allow Ben Habib back into the party over his dead body. He called Tommy Robinson alt-right, which has nothing to do with any type of groups here in the UK, because the alt-right is referred to white supremacists in America. And as far as I know, Tommy's not a white supremacist, and he's not American, so he's not alt-right, is he? He's not far-right, he's not alt-right at all. Farage is just an absolute clown. I think he said alt-right because he didn't want to say far-right, because he knows that he's going to get called out for that. So he thought that alt-right was probably a more benign term. Still a slur, but more benign than calling him far-right. But he's just that clueless about today's politics. He just made an absolute twat of himself when he said that. And then he went on to say about Rupert Lowe, he was asked about Rupert Lowe, about the situation. And he called Rupert Lowe just one man and insignificant. Yet that insignificant man, when he was part of the Reform Party, what was he doing? 47% of all Reform's parliamentary work. He put in, over 900 questions to different organisations and MPs in the House of Parliament, whilst Nigel Farage did 38. Richard Tice did, 139? But, Rupert Lowe's insignificant. Yeah, sure he is. Nigel hasn't even thanked that indie guy who called out the Rochdale vote thing yet. He's in it for himself. Nigel Farage is just all about himself. That's why he'll never, right, what was the excuses? Because Sargon McCann brought this up, right? The excuse for not democratising the party was that the May local elections were coming up and they couldn't democratise the party because they were focusing on getting the May elections done. So, like Sargon McCann has said, what's the excuse going to be now to not democratise the party? What's the excuse going to be? What do you think it's going to be? He said Tommy's followers on X was alt-right, and he didn't need them. His ego and his arrogance will be his downfall. Yeah, we said this. I said this in a video, didn't I? That Nigel Farage. I think it was actually in a post I did on the community section of my channel, not a video. I said that Nigel Farage is now holding the Reform Party back. He is. And I think everybody agrees on this. They're hitting this 25 to 28% glass ceiling that they can't break through. And it's all because of Nigel Farage. You know, I think Sargon of Akkad said that in order to form a majority government, you need, was it 38% or over approval rating, not approval rating, polling. So he's never going to do it. Nigel Farage is never going to do it. Farage belittled Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib. What an absolute cretin Farage is. Yeah, exactly. But he's got a history of doing this. He's done it to people before. He did it to Gerard Batten. He did it to, he's done it to Howard Cox. He's done it to, what's that other guy, that Fox guy. He did it to him. He's done it to a whole host of other people. He throws people under the bus politically who he sees as a threat to him, as his popularity. He smears them. He throws them under the bush at every single opportunity he can get. The man's an absolute moron and he's disgusting. Right, guys, we're at the 1 hour mark stream on the live stream, so I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to end it here. Yeah, exactly. Shell, he's flip-flop. He definitely is. Right, so well, I thank everybody that's given me support over the last week during, my absence and stuff like that. I'll put this comment up on the screen. Reform could get prior to, yeah, exactly. If Ben Habib was still in charge, even with Richard Tice as leader, Ben Habib was pushing the party to poll higher because he was giving Tice the policies to put forward. That's what would have happened. Right, I want to thank everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing. Please like and share and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out the channel. Go and follow me on Twitter/X. Go follow me on there. It's a really big help as well. Go follow me on there in case this channel ever goes down, because now I'm in the lefties' crosshairs. Who knows? Go follow me on Rumble as well, as you can see in the banner below. Vindicator Vengeance on Twitter at Dark Knight DA. That's what I am on there. And if you can, support the channel, buy me a coffee, that sort of thing. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been an awesome live stream. Great to talk to everybody again. And I shall see you all in the next video. This is Vindicator signing off. And on that note, I will agree. Night, everybody.